I would love to welcome my friend Neil. Woo. That was the sounding of the applause from all the nations because Neil is here today. Can you please introduce yourself and your businesses?
Sure. Thank you for referring to me as an everyday person. It does wonders to keep my self-esteem and my ego in check.
You're welcome.
Well, everyone, my name is Neil Thompson, as Christiana said, and for a number of years I worked in medical devices as an engineer. And actually, one of my businesses called Teach the Geek stems from those days as an engineer. I was a project lead, and essentially what that meant is, in addition to my duties as a product development engineer, I had to take on project management duties because the company I worked for was too cheap to hire project managers. So one of the
There's a
roles,
lot of companies.
indeed, and so one of the roles that I had to take on was presentations, monthly presentations in front of senior management. And I was terrible at those presentations at first. And you would have thought that even after that first one where I completely wet the bed, I would have gotten a lot better after time, but I didn't. I was arrogant. I thought that I could just get up there and wing it and just put a bunch of slides together at the last minute, just get up there and read them. And I wasn't getting any better. And I knew that I wasn't getting better at these presentations because oftentimes at the end of them, when I had to answer questions, I was getting questions that I thought I had answered during the presentation. But because I didn't present in a way that the audience could take in, I was getting these questions. And eventually my project that I was working on, the project that I was actually brought into the company to do, was canceled. Then I thought, okay, maybe this is the time to change up the way I was approaching these things. And
That's a good surmise.
Yeah. And so what I ended up doing is I figured I had to get better at public speaking, just presenting in front of people. And so I did that. I joined Toastmasters. I was a member for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know about Toastmasters, it's an international organization whose goal really is to help people improve in their public speaking.
Right.
And no matter where I was living at the time, I was a member of a Toastmasters club, and it's an excellent forum to practice your public speaking. So I got a lot better at it. And essentially, I took everything that I learned in becoming more effective in public speaking, and I turned it into an online course for engineers and scientists, essentially people like myself, and I called it Teach the Geek to Speak. And so that's one of my businesses. So that's Teach the Geek. Essentially, it's eventually will be a suite of courses that would be of interest to engineers and scientists. And the public speaking course, Teach the Geek to Speak, just happens to be the first one. And so that's one thing. And then another thing that I do also is I'm a patent agent. And for those of you all that don't know what that is, it's someone who helps inventors with drafting their patent applications, which eventually go to the patent office, and then also communicating with the patent office to convince them to allow the application to become an issued patent. So I became a patent agent back in 2012. And the reason I became a patent agent wasn't my own decision, really. Well, not exactly. I was working at this company, and the owner of the company wanted all the engineers, which was 3 of us, including myself, to become patent agents so he wouldn't have to hire outside counsel to draft patent applications. I thought that this was a mandate. I didn't realize that I had a choice in the matter. I was the only person that actually ended up taking the test to become a patent agent. And would you believe that after I took all that time and effort to take this test and become a patent agent, he never gave me any patent agent work to do?
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm very serious.
Wow.
He still outsourced all the patent work to outside counsel. So that was back in 2012.
Well, he invested in you. What a great investment, because look at what you're doing now with it.
Invested in me, my ass. I had to pay for it myself.
You paid for it? He didn't even cover it?
No.
Yikes.
Yeah,
but at least you're doing something with it.
Yeah, I'm doing something with it now. So a few years later, I decided that I'd start doing it and essentially working as a patent agent for myself. Last year, I became more affiliated with an actual IP firm here in the San Diego area. So now I do patent work for them, drafting applications. And then another business that I have with a couple of former coworkers is we do consulting for typically smaller medical device companies on sterile packaging. So for those of you that don't know, any medical device that you use, it has to come in some kind of packaging. But oftentimes, especially with smaller companies, they focus more on developing the product as opposed to the packaging the product goes into. And they don't
Oh,
necessarily
okay.
have, yeah, they don't necessarily have the expertise on the testing that the packaging has to pass to be able to be used as
Oh, how
packaging.
interesting.
Yeah, so we help these companies with their packaging projects. So that's another business I have. It's called Steriliant. And then the fourth thing that I do, well, I wouldn't call it a business, more a passion really, is I authored a children's book a couple of years ago, and it's called Ask Uncle Neil, Why Is My Hair Curly? The book
Can you
is
show
about
us the book? Do you have the book right there?
I can get it real quickly if you want. I didn't I completely forgot to get it, but I actually just have it over here. I could get a copy.
Okay, reach over there and get it. You know, it's the
Okay,
Cafecito. We're just hanging out here.
okay, I found it. Here it is. My children's book.
I
Yes,
love it.
it's called Ask Uncle Neil, Why Is My Hair Curly? It's
Yeah.
about my nephew asking me why his hair is the way it is, and I use science to answer the question. And the reason that I wrote the book is to encourage more Black children to consider careers in STEM, because as some of you may know, Black people are rather underrepresented in the STEM fields,
Yes.
and I don't think it has to be that way. It's oftentimes I think the reason is we don't think that STEM is for us. We think it's for white people and Asians, but that's not the case. Anyone could get into STEM. And I wanted to write a children's book because I wanted kids to know at an early age all the things that I do. No careers that are off limits.
Wow. Okay, so first of all, let's just talk about how you listed three major um, jobs or careers or companies, however you want to state it, that are definitely innovative in how you thought about putting yourself in that space. Going back to the patent agent, that could have easily been something where you just took it and saw the negative in it, where your boss didn't pay for it. He asked you all and put it in a way where it made it seem like it was required, and it wasn't. You paid all this money, and he still outsourced. And so I think it's important to highlight that, because oftentimes we have things like that happen to us in life. I have stories of something similar happening to me. And I did the same thing. I took it and worked it in my benefit. I said, this is something that's invested. I'm investing in myself, and I'm going to figure out how to build on this, as opposed to only see that that I was cheated, or I felt like I was cheated. I think the other thing that is really important to highlight is the book. So the book you started putting together because your nephew, right? Didn't your nephew come to you and ask you the question? I mean, that's the whole purpose of the title, right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that my nephew Anthony, he's a very inquisitive kid, and he asks quite a number of questions. And he asked me this question, and I didn't really know the answer to it, so I thought it would be an interesting idea for a book. Eventually, I wanted to make the book a series, where my nephew's asking me another thing about that book is my family didn't actually know that I wrote it until I sent them a copy of it.
Pleasantly surprised.
Oh yeah, I got some interesting phone calls later on once I got it in the mail.
I love it. I'm curious, what did your nephew say when he saw, because the book is about him and based on you and his relationship, what did he think?
Oh, he loved it. He told all his friends in school about it. I'm almost sure that he brought it in to show to his class as well.
I love it. I love it. Do you think that you and he will collaborate on future books together?
Well, I have another nephew now. So I have two sisters, an older sister and a younger sister. And Anthony is the son of my older sister. My younger sister just had a son in March. So I'm assuming, well, not assuming, I make the ultimate decision, but in any subsequent books, he'll probably be in the book as well. So maybe it'll be both of them that are featured in future books. And I still won't tell them that I'm writing the book. They'll still just get it in the mail.
I love it. I love it. And then the other business that you have, Teach the Geek, based off of your experience in public speaking and the trouble with that. I mean, so many of us have challenges with speaking publicly, whether it's because we are uncomfortable with being in front of a crowd, or someone told us that our voice was off-putting, or whatever the case may be. And for you to take that, again, there's so many things. I know people in my life, men, women, all different ethnicities, all different ages, who have allowed situations that you presented today to enable them to move forward, to almost cripple them. Can you share with me a little bit about what was it for you that made you shift in your thinking or perception to say, I'm not going to let this debilitate me. I'm going to turn this into a positive and build on it. Where does that come from for you?
Well, I said earlier that my project got canceled. I don't know if my project got canceled, I would have made any kind of shift. I was on autopilot. But once the project got canceled, and I mentioned that it was the project that I was brought into that company to do, I thought that I was going to be out of a job. Luckily, they just found other things for me to do. But that was really the catalyst that brought Teach the Geek kind of, I guess, that created Teach the Geek. It was just my own failings and wanting to improve so I wouldn't be in that position ever again.
So it kind of sounds like it comes from you saying, I'm not going to stay down here. I'm going to figure a way to get up, to pull myself up, even if like right now, in the situation that we're in right now, this COVID hold, we were talking about this before we started recording, but I think there's something intrinsic that you pull on when you make the decision to pivot. Because I know that your journey is one that wasn't easy. You know, most people may look at you and go, oh, you're a smart guy. Okay, you figured it out. But you had to decide that you wanted to pivot or to pull yourself out of the situation that you were in, the negative situation that you were in. Talk to me a little bit about what your journey has been like to get you to where you are right now.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, just like you mentioned, it hasn't been all that easy, but I figured if there was ever a time to undertake such a journey, it'd be now. I don't have any children. I don't have a wife. I don't have any constraints.
So he's open, ladies. He's interested. He's ready to mingle. That's what he said. Hit him up on Neil Thompson mingle.com. That's what he said right now.
Well, now you're trying to put constraints on me. What are you doing?
Okay, maybe he don't want y'all. May not want y'all. I don't know.
But what? Single, yeah. Well, so I was. I have no constraints really. So there was no reason why I couldn't undertake anything. As long as anyone's depending on me to live or anything like that. It was just I just have to depend on myself. So any kind of decision I made, it was only me that was going to be affected by it. So I thought now is the time, if ever. And so, as I mentioned, it wasn't easy. I had to kind of figure out, what things that I've done kind of stemmed from all my interests. So getting better at public speaking and seeing the benefit that it did for me and what it's done for others, that was one of the benefits of starting Teach the Geek, or one of the catalysts for starting it. For the patent agent stuff, there's a lot of people out there with invention ideas that don't know how to go about turning them into patents. So I saw an opportunity there. And then the sterile line and the sterile packaging, again, that was another opportunity with smaller companies not having that resource in-house typically and having to outsource that kind of work. And I saw, well, if they're going to outsource it to anyone, why not me and the people that I used to work with when I worked in medical devices. And then the children's book, that book that I wrote. So there are a lot of books out there about Black hair, but they come from the perspective of loving your Black hair. I was never going to write such a book because I already love my Black hair. It would never have occurred to me to write such a thing. And plus, as you can see, I don't have all that much Black hair on my head anyway. More on my face.
Also on your face, yeah.
On my face, not much on my head.
Lovely. It's lovely.
But I've never seen a book out there talking about why the hair is the way it is. So I saw that as an opportunity to come from a topic, to come at a topic. I thought that would be really interesting, just to go down that hole as well, go down that path as well. And then the idea of a black person talking to a black kid about the scientific reasons why things are the way they are. I don't see many books out there like that at all either. So that's the reason why I plan on making the book the book into a series. I mean, nothing has been easy, but I've seen opportunities, and those opportunities, coupled with my interests, are kind of the path that I'm trying to carve for myself.
You know, those two things that you mentioned at the end seem to be a thread throughout your whole journey. And I can definitely attest to it as well, is opportunity. And I think that's one of the key things when talking about, you know, feeling stuck or caged into a world that you feel you don't know which way you can go, or you feel like you have no options. Especially if your job is in jeopardy, which a lot of people are facing right now, housing in jeopardy, just all these things that we can be faced with right now, especially. But looking at one of the things that really sticks out to me is that you kept looking around to see, okay, what is it that I have that's needed in this space right now? What's missing? And you took the opportunity to move in that direction, and even some risk, because not everything panned out initially with your ventures, right? You know, some things didn't take off right away. You had to have patience with it, but you still kept moving forward. One of the things that I really appreciate this book, and when I saw it, I was captivated by it because I've worked with youth for years, and I saw that this was a book that would be a benefit. And last year you came out and you did a talk with fifth graders. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacted you in the way you went about? You want to tell the story a little bit before you share how it impacted you?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, you invited me to a class that you were working with of fifth graders to talk about my book and essentially to talk about myself. And I jumped at the chance. I thought it'd be fun, and it turned out to be. I certainly don't regret going to that class. They were very engaged with what I was talking about the book and just my journey just in general. So that was a lot of fun. It got me thinking about, getting out there more, I guess, and talking about the book more, because oftentimes I even forget that I wrote the book, and I don't remember to talk about it nearly as much as I should. I'll talk about Teach the Geek. Teach the Geek tends to be top of mind for me most of the time, but getting out there more to really push the book and the motivation for the book. I've done some book signings since then, pre-COVID, of course. And I've actually now, we're in this pandemic. I'm now, it's important to me to look for other opportunities to plug the book as well. I'm guessing the majority of them are going to have to be virtual in some way, since it doesn't seem like any in-person events are going to be happening anytime soon. So, searching for those type of opportunities and capitalizing on them, getting out there and something talking about the book is important to me.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you coming out. The group that we're talking about is in association with another organization that I partner with called Movement B. You can find out more about them, movementb.org. And their whole premise is about be the narrative that you can be. And not allowing anyone else to change that narrative based on their perception. And I really loved how when you were in there talking with those youth, how they were so enthralled with you and this book and the pictures. And there was some African American boys in the group. I think one was biracial, and he got really emotional. Do you remember him? He just kept talking about how no one had ever written a book about why his hair was curly. And then there was other kids who was not of African descent, but had curly hair. And they were like, well, I never knew why my hair was curly. Oh, and then there was like this whole emotional experience that transpired because they were fighting over the book. But oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I had one, and then I gave it away to one of the people, I think it was that biracial boy you were talking.
Yes.
But then there was another girl that actually ended up crying because she didn't get the book. Luckily, I had another one with me, so I gave it to her.
Yeah. And I remember asking them, like, why, especially the little girl, why did it mean so much for her to have it? And she was just saying how it really helped her to understand better her hair texture, because her hair texture was different than her mom and her sisters. And she always thought that she was kind of like this weird oddball, but from reading the book in the class with you, it helped give more understanding for her. And I think that especially right now, as schools are trying to figure out how to move forward, they don't know really how they're going to bring the kids back in the classroom, or if they're going to bring them back, and if they're going to have full days or half days and all this, and parents are going crazy because they're like, listen, I love my kids, but I didn't sign up to be a teacher. I'm not a teacher. Like, I thought there was a whole system in place for me to put my kids in, Everyone, the point I'm getting at is that there's resources out there that people may not know about that would engage their kids in a different way, especially to your point of you wanting to expand Black kids' mind to understand, and brown kids' minds to understand, that you don't have to be of one or two ethnic groups to be in the STEM space, that you can do it at whatever level you're at, whatever community you're in. Are you planning on doing any, or are you open to doing any talks with classes virtually if schools open up that opportunity, like doing some type, or is this going to be like a curriculum at some point, or like, have you thought about anything in that area?
No, I mean, I haven't thought of anything in terms of curriculum. The idea of presenting in front of classrooms virtually, I'm certainly open to that. But yeah, a curriculum, yeah, I haven't really thought that far down the line. Something to think about, though.
You never know. You never know. So over the course of your career, and as you're building out these businesses, what is the condition that we're in right now with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and COVID and our political scene? Like, how do you see the work you're doing being impacted by that? And is there anything that you're doing to drive your message in a different way or be more present? Talk to me a little bit about like the climate that's happening and how it's influencing your business moves.
That's an interesting question. I'm not really sure that I really thought about it from that vantage point. I guess I kind of already knew that Black Lives Matter. I've known that since I was a child. Pretty much. It's great that other people are catching up to that, I suppose.
Facts.
But well, I guess when it comes to the work that I do, especially with the children's book, as I mentioned before, well, actually I didn't mention this, but even from when I was young, I never thought that there were any opportunities that were off limits to me because I was Black. And it wasn't until I got much older, when I was an adult, and they started noticing that that mentality actually exists in some. And I found it so tragic because, I mean, Black people come from kings and queens, for God's sakes. Like, we've done stuff throughout history. Our history didn't start with slavery. We've done quite a bit before then, and we've done quite a bit afterwards. And I guess get the sense that we harp so much on the negatives, I guess, that we've succumbed to over time. And yeah, they're definitely important. But man, it's not any reason to, I guess, discount all of the great things that we've done as well. And the the book really is to tell these young people. I mean, I wrote the book for children typically from the ages of 6 to 8. I figure if they have the confidence from then to know that there are no careers or fields off limits to them, it'll be a lot more difficult for any naysayers later on in life to derail them from any path that they have. And I think if any Black child from 6 years old was able to internalize that message, I
100%.
think the Black community would
Understanding
be so
that
much better off.
our narrative is one that not only we receive from externally, but the one that we tell ourselves, and to take control of that, to say, I recognize that this is what they've been feeding us for years based on their desire to suppress. However, I know differently, and I'm going to start executing out of that mindset. And then also influencing the community that you're connected with. um, I think that it's so funny. I have friends who don't have kids. I myself don't have kids. I'm an amazing cool aunt though to so many. um, but I often hear from people who are like, oh, I don't have kids. So, I'll ask them about investing in our youth and, what are you doing? Oh, I don't have kids, and it's like, we're perfect examples of, we don't have kids. And yet, I'm in the classroom because I love kids. I love being in the classroom. I love teaching, but that's not everybody's story. And for you, you found a way to contribute to that generation in a way that will benefit them in their present and their future self, without having kids, without even being in the classroom, or, your nieces and your nephews, or now you have two, but you don't even live in the same state as them, right? So it's been like a distant relationship. But yet you've been able to still stay connected. I think it's so important for us to highlight that because, again, it's so easy for us to go, oh, that don't affect me. That ain't my world. That's not a part of. Why do you say, wait, that is something that I should contribute to? And then you want to continue contributing to it, to our youth.
Well, I mean, I don't have any children of my own, but I have two nephews and their children. They'll eventually grow up to be adults and contribute to society. There are Black children that obviously aren't related to me at all, but again, they'll grow up to be adults and contribute to society. I'm for the Black community. I want us all to do well, and as I mentioned, those kids are eventually going to be the people that are the contributors.
Yes.
Another thing that I wanted to mention, and I feel very strongly about this too, is this is something that it never really occurred to me until maybe a couple of years ago when I heard other people talking about it. Because as I mentioned, I never grew up thinking that there were things off limits to me because I was Black. So when I hear other people say I often hear this phrase, if you have to see it to believe it.
Mm.
And hopefully, well, we'll see if you agree with what I say afterwards. But I often get the sense that people think that phrase means if say, for instance, you're a Black child, and if you don't see a Black adult doing something that you want to do, then you don't think that that's something that you can do. I think that's a mentality that is detrimental, very harmful to the Black community, because we are, as I mentioned, in STEM, we are underrepresented. So if you're looking for Blacks to be doing things that you might be interested in, you might not find it until later in life, if at all. So does that mean that you can't be the first? You can't be the trailblazer that does it? And I hope the answer is no, that's not what it means.
Right.
If there's somebody doing something that you want to do, regardless of their race or gender, that means you can do it too. And I firmly believe that. So for anybody who believes that we need to have Black role models or Black mentors even to aspire to, please don't believe that anymore. If there are other people that are doing things that you want to do, especially if they're willing to even speak to you and talk to you more about the things that they do, well, you can do it too.
I do appreciate you sharing that. I think I know I'm a firm believer that representation does matter, but I don't think that's all that's. I don't rest everything on that. In that, if you don't see representation in that space, then to your point, you must be the first then to do it. If you don't see it, then don't hold back and think that that then means that you cannot do it. I agree with you. And this is why our children need different voices in the classroom. This is why I brought you to the classroom, because some of those kids had never. So I did something intentionally with your cohort that I brought out. It was all Black males that I brought, of all different age ranges, of all different career backgrounds. And near the end of me doing it, I had kids come up to me and they were like, wow, I didn't know there was so many, and they stopped. Um, like, and they were trying to find the words, and I could tell that they wanted to say um, Black, but they didn't want to offend. They were scared. And I said, you can just talk to me and say, what is it that you want to say to me? And they were like, I didn't know so many Black men have done, I had a couple of them say that. I didn't know so many Black men do this, or where did you find these people? Are all these people your friends? And it took me to a place of being able to have a conversation. So I literally said, everybody come in a circle, let's sit down, let's talk. And we start talking about the people you surround yourself with. And I told him, I said, I have many people in my life who are advanced. Like Neil is in this tech space and he works in I have no clue of that world, no clue. But you were willing to talk to me. And because you were willing to talk to me, it made me lean in more. But I told them diversify their friendships at school. Don't just hang out with people who look like them and sound like them. Connect with that quiet person over in the corner. Connect with the kid that maybe only like to do math all day, and you don't like math. But it's important to broaden your palette of friends, of connections, because that's where growth happens, is when you're in the space with other people that are different than you, because it challenges you to open your mindset in a way that you wouldn't automatically do it if you did not step out of that comfort zone. So I do agree with that that statement that you made. I feel like you kind of talked a lot about it in various ways, but for those who, and more so with adults who may be in the early stage of building their company, or have hit a low point and are trying to figure out which way to go. They're not stuck necessarily, but just trying to figure out which direction to move in. What would be your advice to those that may be listening in that place?
Well, I guess when it comes to advice, that's kind of not exactly a one size fits all situation. It kind of depends on on where you're at, your situation. But I mean, just in general, if you're starting off in determining whether going off and doing your own thing is for you, kind of have to figure out what are the things that you value. I mean, I didn't want to be. I don't. It turns out I don't really like being an employee in the regular sense. I don't want to have to go into an office, especially now when offices are reopening, and we're still in this pandemic. So people,
Yeah.
even though they might be worried about COVID, having to go into an office anyway, and you might have. And you're thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I want to work from home.
Both ways.
Like, I want to work from home. This damn company wouldn't let me. And now if I can leave because the job market isn't the best right now, and like millions of people out here unemployed, I should just be happy that I have a job. I don't know if this is a tangent, but this is just something I find really funny. For the last few weeks, I've been seeing a lot of articles on LinkedIn about Zoom fatigue. People that are
yeah,
people that are tired about having all these Zoom meetings. Well, yeah, go tell it to somebody who's unemployed about your Zoom fatigue.
That part. That part.
They'll trade their unemployment for your
Okay.
Zoom fatigue any day of the week.
Okay.
Ridiculous. Anyway, I don't like that kind of, I guess, control that a company has on me. So a lot of things that I do, it was out of the kind of trying to build the life that I wanted to have for myself. So all these things that I can do from anywhere. So I could be at home, I could be at a coffee shop, anywhere, and I can write patents. I can draft protocols for packaging validations. I could write a children's book again, and any of these things that I do, add on, develop another course for Teach the Geek. These are all things that I can do in the comfort of anywhere that I'm at. So I'm not under the thumb of a company to do those things. So really kind of just anyone out there has to kind of figure out what kind of life they want to live and figure out a way to be able to tailor it, figure out how to do things so you can tailor to living that type of life.
Well said, Neil. Well said. Well, I just want to thank you for taking out time today to speak with us and share your journey. Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. So they can learn more about Teach the Geek at teachthegeek.com. If they want to learn more about the sterile packaging consulting I do, they can go to sterilliant.com. That's STERILIANT.com. If they want to learn more about the children's book, they can go to askuncleneil.com, and my name is spelled Neil. And if they, let's see what else. And then also about patents, they can learn more about that from the firm that I work at. And that's torreypineslaw.com. That's TORREYPINESLAW.com.
And I'll also add to that, Neil was actually hosting a Patent 101 course, or not course, but webinar with us on the 23rd or 22nd of this month. 21st. I was days off of this month. So please do go on, if you haven't already signed up for it, sign up for it. If you're watching this after it's already aired, then you will still be able to find the link and the recording on the membership platform, WeThePlug.com, or our YouTube channel at We The Plug.
Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention, the YouTube channel. So yes, I also have a YouTube channel where I interview engineers and scientists who do public speaking. It's really interesting to find out their tips about becoming more effective in public speaking. It's also interesting to find out the various careers that people with STEM degrees go down. I had children's book authors on there, an empowerment coach, all kinds of different things. And you can find out about the YouTube channel at youtube.teachthegeek.com.
And that, I will tell you guys, is really valuable, because I found some really great resources by tuning in. I really appreciate how you selected a variety of people that come from very interesting backgrounds, but have very actionable take from watching it. It's not just you watching it and going, oh, okay. Like, you literally can learn so much from watching those and then put those into action. So I do appreciate those as well. So all of those places you can find Neil, as well as on the We The Plug membership page as well. You can communicate with him there. And if you're interested in being on his podcast, definitely reach out to him. So for your time today. Again, you guys, if you want to know more about the Cafecito, you can always go on our membership page at WeThePlug.com. You can sign up to be on the Cafecito. Again, we will be rolling out the episodes this month in July, so you'll be able to watch them and share them with others. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.